Would it be appropriate to run the intro on an Elder Scrolls video, given that most clips are Assassin's Creed? Bollocks to that. Let's have a look, shall we? Hello everyone, welcome to an Elder Scrolls speculation video, and in this one I want to talk about why I would like to see Hammerfell in the next Elder Scrolls game. Well, I did make a sort of tweet on Twitter last night where I said that I'd like to see Hammerfell, and a lot of people seem to disagree with it, and now I just want to make a video explaining why, but at the same time I want to make a video expressing my point, because the first point is quite obvious. I mean, Skyrim was quite a bitter, cold land, and the desert is almost the complete opposite of that. I mean, you know, a desert could be cold or warm, so not necessarily a warm desert is technically the opposite of what Skyrim was, and I think that that'll be really cool to sort of, you know, go into, say, the world of the Elder Scrolls from the perspective of the warmth of Hammerfell, instead of, say, the cool of Skyrim. Now, I want to have sort of like an experience different to Skyrim, because Skyrim was a unique experience and I don't want to see them try to replicate it with a similar sort of thing. So anywhere with too many trees or too much grass or too much snow is technically going to replicate that a little bit too much, and I want to have something completely different. For example, I would love to see a sort of you know, different area, sort of like Hammerfell, which is a desert, really warm. Hammerfell and elsewhere both have the desert-like area, but Hammerfell especially because the desert, say, of Hammerfell is full of stuff to do and exploration, etc., and it'll be sort of fun to play in the sort of area and see what all the new stuff. I mean, people seem to sort of get confused and think, oh, but it's just a desert, it's not going to be very much to see there. I mean, no, maybe not, but then again, if you look at some of the concept art for the Elder Scrolls Online, you will see that there are some very interesting rock formations and stuff that sort of engulfs the land, and there are some other pieces of artwork that imply that there's a lot of Dwemer ruins, a lot of Dwemer stuff, and stuff like that. So really, it's not actually as empty as one might think, and there could be a lot to do in that world, and I feel as if it'll be really nice to see what they could do. Another point that I want to mention is that the natives to Hammerfell, the Red Guards, are also very interesting as a race, because they're very battle-oriented, but they're not as, say, regarding honour as the Nords, from what I've seen. But at the same time, they're the same sort of soldier, just more, you know, intense in a way, and also less too heavy weapons, and they just seem like very interesting sort of people in general. I also feel as if there'll be plenty of opportunities for questing out in the Alakir Desert, because if you think about it, it'll be a perfect place to hide out, say, as a bandit, so you could do a lot of bounty hunting and stuff like that, and sort of go around the Alakir Desert, or maybe even all of Hammerfell, hunting bandits as well as doing other things. And I can imagine that it would be quite interesting to be going around the rock formations, finding people and killing them and hunting them and getting money for it, and taking, say, proof of their death to the town, or saying that they're dead, and then going and getting money for it and stuff like that. That'd be really cool to see. And as you can imagine, there are probably some unique species out there in the desert as well that are adapted to living in those conditions, and are probably a lot more sturdy than, say, the enemies found in Skyrim, or maybe equally as sturdy but for different reasons, and that too would be very interesting to see. And I really do think that that is going to be a cool thing, if you ask me. However, you know, I could be wrong, because I don't really study much about Elder Scrolls lore that every now and then, but, you know, I honestly think it will be really cool to see. And I think you guys should definitely comment down below what you think, if there are any animals that are there or anything like that, and what they're like, and please do, because I am completely clueless. But let's move on. I feel as if Skyrim is on the cold end of the spectrum. Like I said before, I'd like to see something on the other end, which is just really warm sort of thing. So everywhere is sort of warm oriented, it's different culture, everything's different, because the culture of Hammerfell is different to that of Skyrim, I find. And I mean that in different ways. Say, for example, the Red Guards and the Nords have different ways of living, and the structures are quite different, I think. I'm not 110% sure, but they seem to be more into like Middle Eastern inspired designs and stuff, and I would really like to see that in an Elder Scrolls game, because Middle Eastern architecture is really nice looking stuff. I mean, It's more interesting to say what they could pull with Skyrim, because the buildings and stuff in Skyrim were underwhelming, to be fair, and it was probably one of the most underwhelming parts of Skyrim, although Dragon's Reach was pretty nice looking, but most buildings didn't have very much effort put into them. However, I do find that although there wasn't very much effort, it really did suit Skyrim as the open world, because of it just worked, and that's the point I want to make. It just worked, and that's why it actually fitted Skyrim so much. And I feel as if with the desert of the Alakir and Hammerfell, you'd want to go with more Middle Eastern sort of looks, maybe even African. So where you have huts out in the desert, with like little towns made of huts and stuff, and big cities with sort of Middle Eastern architecture inspired sort of buildings. That'd be really, really nice to see, and the feel will be so much different from Skyrim that although you'll feel as if it's in the same franchise, but it won't feel as if it's just trying to boost off of the success of Skyrim and not take very much else from, like, you know, the other things, and just be complete Skyrim. I mean, I'd really like to see them just focus on trying to make it feel as if the same franchise, keep the same base engine, but don't make it the same as Skyrim, to be fair. So that'll be a lot better than, say, just being almost copy and paste, you know what I'm saying? So just to reflect on that point so you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, I would like to see the next Elder Scrolls game sort of focus on a different sort of, like, entire sort of feel than Skyrim, but keep the base feel so you know it's the same franchise, and have constant references between the two Skyrim and to previous Elder Scrolls games, and have characters sort of from those areas as said before. But I'd like to have it set in Hammerfell, because that's so different from Skyrim that it doesn't necessarily have to be compared, and therefore it won't be, you know, deemed as well, Skyrim was when the franchise was at its best and this game isn't as good. I'd like to see it sort of like, well, this is Elder Scrolls, and maybe it isn't as good as Skyrim, or maybe it's better than Skyrim, but at the same time, they're so different in culture and everything that it's just essentially feel that they come down on, and I feel as if that would be a lot better than, say, having almost the same game, two sort of entries in a row, and that would just be not as good. So I would like to see like that difference, and I feel as if Hammerfell would be the perfect place to have that difference, as Hammerfell is really warm and Skyrim is bitter cold, and they're both sort of different as well in other ways, because Skyrim isn't necessarily a desert, even though it is bitter cold, and a desert can be hot or cold, but it isn't a desert. So the Alakir Desert could be a different interesting little location, or big location as it turns out, and search around and find stuff and do stuff in different sort of land formations and different areas, and have different looks on everything, and it will be really, really interesting, and not necessarily the same as Skyrim in any way whatsoever. And I feel as if that is what they need to sort of focus on, but at the same time keep the base feel so you know that it's the Elder Scrolls, and it focuses the same as Skyrim. So although you feel as if it's completely different, it sort of is very similar. For example, they don't really have to change much as far as engine, combat or anything goes, so you could technically just port the same engine over, add a few interesting things. And there's one little thing that they can do, is they can sort of, I don't know, they can have more interactions with things in the area. Say when you get bored of standing still, you'll start doing something and stuff like that. I feel as if they did that and focused on that and putting that in there as well, that would add to the feel. And with Hammerfell, they could be doing different things. For example, with the harvesting, they could be done in a different way, so everything could be very different, and I feel as if they should definitely focus on how it could be different from Skyrim, but at the same time sort of take what Skyrim's put into the franchise and improved on it, or maybe just used it without people thinking, oh, this is just a copy-paste piece of shit. So I feel as if Hammerfell is the perfect location for this, and also not to mention that it's a big-ass province. So, you know, it's like, I think it's a bigger than Skyrim. I haven't really checked on the map, but I do believe it's a bit bigger, maybe 1.5 times the size, so it's a bigger world, it's ideal, and you could explore it for like a while and sort of take in the views like you did with Skyrim, but for different reasons, because Skyrim's cold, Hammerfell is roasting fucking hot, and I just think that would be really, really, really cool to sort of explore Hammerfell and get a feel for the world and feel as if, oh, this is Elder Scrolls, but this is not like anything we've seen before in previous games. For example, Skyrim was different and great for that reason, and Hammerfell, or whatever the game will be called if it's set in Hammerfell, is just as good, or maybe even better, or maybe a little bit worse, but it's amazing nonetheless for a good reason. I feel as if that'll be really, really, really cool. But anyway, guys, sorry if I seem to be waffling a little bit in this video. My mind is pretty clouded with these ideas, and I just wanted to get this video out to you guys. But thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, share, comment if you want more of these Elder Scrolls speculation videos. And I'll see you all for the Skyrim stream later, maybe. Or I'll see you all next time in another video, because that'll only be the day that this video is out, not any time otherwise. But I will see you all next time. So be sure to go ahead and like, subscribe, share, comment if you haven't already, and I'll see you all next time. So yeah, so that.